All right, so we have season 3 of What If on Disney Plus. It's the final season. Why it has to be the final season, I will never know. But anyways, here's how this video is going to go for anybody that's never seen one of my Marvel review videos. So first, I'm going to give my non-spoiler thoughts, so that way if you haven't seen the final season yet, you can hear what I thought without getting spoiled. And then I'm going to go into what I liked and then what I didn't like. There will be spoilers for that, but it will be relatively short because immediately after that, I'm going to give my episode ranking. Yeah, it's not going to be 2 separate videos like it was for season 1. It's going to be combined like it was for season 2. Yeah, so first, non-spoiler thoughts, then what I liked, what I didn't like, and then the episode ranking. Yeah, so let's just get to it. Okay, so season 3 has a lot of the similar charm from the previous first 2 seasons, but it doesn't necessarily feel the same as those seasons. It feels a little bit more like season 2 than it does season 1, but like overall it's not my favorite season. I was hoping we were going to get more from a final season than what we got, and yeah. But also, like, where season 1 and to a slightly lesser extent season 2 felt very much like a what if 1 or 2 details in a familiar story changed, season 3 kind of felt like, what if we put these characters together in random plot / location and see what happens? It almost kind of felt more or less of a what if dynamic and more of a let's explore different characters' dynamics with each other. Yeah, it was kind of an odd pivot for a final season. It wasn't necessarily bad, it was just odd. That's, I think, the best way to describe it. If they were gonna have like more seasons and they were setting us up for like this sort of new normal way of telling these stories, I think I would have felt better about it. Yeah, I mean, season 3 was there, and that's not something you want to say for a show that is in its final season, that it was just there. But yeah. Anyways, on to what I liked. I know it doesn't feel like I liked a whole lot. But I like, for the most part, that they are standalone episodes. So, season 1 and season 2, I feel like had a lot more interconnection between the episodes, which, I mean, I tend to go back and forth on whether or not I actually like that aspect of it or whether I don't. But yeah, season 3, it felt a lot like you could essentially pick which episodes you want to watch and skip ones that you didn't, which didn't really happen in the first 2 seasons. Now, there is some interconnectivity between the episodes, but in the previous seasons, I felt like it was more like you have to watch the other episodes to get the whole picture. But season 3 felt like, well, here's a little piece of something that'll be picked up, in a later episode, but you're not missing out if you don't watch the aftermath, and you're not confused if you missed the lead up. So they're really kind of standalone episodes with like minor interconnectivity. Like we see the Eminence show up at the end of episode 5, I think it was, talking about the Watcher breaking his oath, but like it's just a piece of information. Like, you're not lost when they show up again in episodes 7 and 8 if you missed episode 5, but you also don't need to have seen episodes 7 and 8 to understand that moment in 5. Like, if that makes any sense. Like, I think the biggest piece of interconnectivity that exists is Birdie. It's like there's like a moment in episode 7 where she's talking to Howard and Darcy, and she's talking to her parents, and you could kind of go like, huh? If you didn't see the Howard and Darcy episode, which I can't remember what number it was. I think it might have been 4. But like, regardless, like that episode, the What If Howard Got Hitched episode, doesn't do a great job of explaining how Birdie came to be and what Birdie actually is. Like, so, like, it's the sense of this character comes back, but there's not really an interconnectivity with it. But then, of course, episode 7 and episode 8 are a 2-part finale, so that is very interconnected. But, I mean, if you're watching episode 7 and then you go and you watch episode 8, it makes sense. It's not like you're watching episode 1 and it's like, to be continued, and then it's like episode 8. Like, it's the next episode. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I just like that they feel more like standalone episodes. Yeah. Another thing that I loved was the character interactions that we likely never would get to see within the greater MCU. Now on to what I didn't like, because there are things that I did not like. Ironically, not a whole lot that I can really pinpoint. Do with that what you will. I talked about this in my non-spoiler thoughts. Like, I didn't love that it was like the complete opposite from the concept of changing a couple things from a movie and seeing what could have been different. But, like, instead it was like, let's put these characters together in very bizarre settings and very bizarre situations. And, I loved having these character dynamics, obviously. But, I do kind of miss the, how would this have played out if this were like this instead? Like, I miss that. And, I don't know, I guess maybe I kind of wanted a back to basics for the final season, but yeah, that's kind of it. All right, so now we are going into the episode ranking. So I'm going to go from my least favorite to my favorite. Work our way up to the number 1. So in 8th place, I have What If the Red Guardian Stopped the Winter Soldier? Now, could this have been the back to basics that I was looking for? Maybe if it had bothered to lean into what would have happened if Howard had lived. It did not. It leaned into the Alexei and Bucky dynamic, which I enjoyed at first. But it got old real quick. Like, I was kind of over them. Like, they were kind of like too stupid. Like, there wasn't much happening in this episode, and honestly, I forgot a lot of the things from this episode moments after it ended, and that's not something you want from a show. Like, you want people to at least remember it for an hour. It was like 2 minutes, and I was like, so what happened? And then it turns out nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. One thing I did like about this episode, though, was that in the formation of the Avengers, we got both Steve and Alexei. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. That was one of the only things I enjoyed about this episode. So yeah, in 8th place, I have What If the Red Guardian Stopped the Winter Soldier. In 7th place, I have What If Howard the Duck Got Hitched. Okay. So, back in season 1, I want to say it was, we had the episode of Party Thor. And in that episode, it seemed to be hinting that maybe, just maybe, something might be happening between Darcy and Howard the Duck. I did not care in the slightest. Not in the slightest. So when season 3 decided to bring that concept back for a whole entire episode, I was not looking forward to it at all. They have a baby egg that is wanted by everybody from S.H.I.E.L.D. to gods. Okay. I wish I cared. I genuinely wish I cared. Honestly, I think my favorite part of this episode was Thanos just being over everybody wanting this egg. Like, he just wants the stones. He's like, are you kidding me? This is what it's about? This is what all the craziness is about? This egg? I want the stones. And I'm like, you know what? Same, Thanos. Same. I'm over everybody wanting this egg. I don't care. Now, that being said, I do love Birdie All Grown Up. It's, it's fun. It's entertaining. But this episode was not that. It was more entertaining than the Red Guardian stopping the Winter Soldier. So that's why it's in 7th and not in 8th. Do with that info what you will. The bar was low, guys. The bar was low. In 6th place, I have What If 1872. So this feels very reminiscent of, I believe it was season 2's episode where they're back in time and everything like that. That's kind of what it felt like, but also not really. I love seeing more Kate Bishop, more Shang-Chi. I love these characters. I love their dynamic together, even though we didn't really get to see a whole lot of it. I wish we got more, but instead we spent basically the bulk of the episode with Shang-Chi off of the train fighting the Hood, and Kate on the train trying to fight off whatever his name is. I literally don't care enough to remember his name, but he had a name, I think. The dude that was on the train had a name, I think. She was trying to, fight him off. The fact that Xialing was the Hood was an obvious twist. The fact that, what's his face was evil was also obvious. It was a plot, ultimately, that was fit for the Wild West. So, there's that. But I honestly don't know why we had to have this episode with this plot when we could have had Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop in anything else. Now, I was intrigued by the kid, though I honestly can't remember his name, which is kind of the summary of this whole show. But I'm not convinced that we'll ever see him again, so that's depressing. In 5th place, I have What If the Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers? Now, I enjoyed Sam and Bruce's friendship. I think that was a lot of fun. I love sort of the slight parallels to Sam and Steve's friendship. Sam and Monica's dynamic was also a lot of fun. The plot was interesting enough. It was a fun episode with a lot of fun character dynamics. It did kind of feel like what I wanted from this season, which was, what if we took certain things from certain movies and changed them up and see what happens? Like, instead of Sam and Steve being friends, it's Sam and Bruce. So I think that's another reason why I really, really loved this episode, because even though it was different, because that's the whole basis of What If, there was still that, like, anchor to, you know, the MCU. And yeah, so What If Hulk Fought the Mech Avengers is in 5th place. But in 4th place, I have What If, What If. Because literally that's the title of an episode. What if, what if? Now, I love that essentially Peggy, Storm, Kahori, and Birdie have to become Watchers to save themselves. The costumes, amazing. Peggy, basically gone now. I was upset about that, but I'm kind of like, it kind of fits. That, like, she doesn't exist in a physical form anymore because, you know, much like Steve, she was existing out of time. And so I kind of love that she literally does exist out of time now. Now, when the Eminence was going to erase, you know, Captain Carter and Birdie and Kahori and Storm out of existence from every universe, I found myself not really caring because, for the most part, in the greater MCU, none of these characters really exist. Like, we had Captain Carter for a hot minute in Multiverse of Madness, and if you've seen that movie, you know how her story plays out. Storm does exist within the X-Men movies, but those have not been a reference within the MCU yet, so I don't imagine much changing on that front. Birdie, I mean, she exists in one universe. If we start having Darcy and Howard the Duck in the greater MCU, please don't do that because I don't need to be disturbed. Okay, but, like, Birdie doesn't exist outside of What If. Kahori doesn't exist outside of What If. So if they are erased from every existence in every universe, okay, nothing changes because none of these characters exist in the greater MCU outside of What If, except for in the case of Captain Carter within Multiverse of Madness, which doesn't really come into play at all. And Storm within the X-Men, but again, not introduced within the MCU yet, so very easy to just sort of not have her be a part of it. Not saying I don't want her a part of it. Please, let Storm be a part of whenever we bring the X-Men in. But, yeah, it's like, okay, and I'm supposed to care? Like, okay. Like, it's the final season of the show. None of these characters exist. Explain to me why I'm supposed to care. Now, I enjoyed this episode. This episode probably would have been higher on the list if it wasn't the series finale. Like, it was a good episode as an episode. But as a series finale, though, it was meh. It was meh. Like, yeah, if this had been like a setup for another season, if this had been, you know, more stakes, if this had been, you know, earlier on in the season even, like something. But as the series finale, it was... So that's why it's in 4th place. But in 3rd place, I have What If the Watcher Disappeared. Now, yeah, as the penultimate episode... Yep. I love Captain Carter. I love Storm. I love Birdie. I love Kahori. I love their team up. That's fun. I enjoy that. Their quest to try to get to the 5th dimension, I think it was the 5th, to save the Watcher was fun to watch. Infinity Ultron, he's back. He's helping. We enjoy that. My level of enjoyment with this episode is kind of on par with, you know, the finale, which kind of makes sense because it's like part 1 of 2. But this episode was slightly more enjoyable for me, like by like 0.1 of a point. So that's why What If the Watcher Disappeared is in 3rd place. But in 2nd place, I have What If Agatha Went to Hollywood. Now, if y'all know me, you know I love my Agatha Harkness. Did I want to put this at the top of the list because Agatha Harkness? Yes, I did. I did want to do that, but yeah, it's in 2nd place. I really love this episode. It was a lot of fun. I love old Hollywood. Like, old Hollywood had its flaws. New Hollywood also has its flaws, but there's just something glamorous about old Hollywood. And so going back to old Hollywood, I loved it. I loved it. Agatha, Howard, Edwin Jarvis, loved their dynamic. It's hilarious. Agatha trying to get the power of the Celestials. Of course she is, because she's Agatha Harkness. She is basically existing to be power hungry. I love her battle with Kingo. Now, one thing I would have maybe liked to see is confirmation that Agatha did not kill the rest of the Eternals. Because she tells Kingo, oh yeah, I borrowed their powers, but they're fine. We don't see them again. I would like to point that out. We don't see them ever. Did Agatha kill the Eternals? Maybe, maybe not. Status unknown. I need confirmation of the Eternals' survival within old Hollywood. I love that Howard is loving the danger of the battle between Agatha and Kingo. Like, they're blasting each other. They're destroying the set. And he's just like, this is great. Dude, you are 3 seconds from getting killed. Maybe a little less excitement, but I'm like, that is so Howard. That is so Howard. Like, I love it. I love that Howard knew all along that Agatha and Kingo were like these like powerful beings, and that's why he used them, because he wanted to save money on like the special effects. And it's like, well, if they can actually do this stuff, I get to save some money, and I like that, so we're gonna do that. And I'm like, I love it. Now, Kingo's speech about how the movies are powerful, and as actors, you know, they have this great power, it was weird. And it was even weirder that it worked and caused Agatha to give up her quest for, you know, this ultimate power. Like, because it's like, oh, she already has the ultimate power being an actor. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it was weird. It didn't make much sense. But I do love that the scene was kind of like bare minimum reminiscent of one of the episodes from season 1 where Thanos gave up his quest for global genocide because T'Challa talked him out of it. Like, it's sort of the, you know, it takes the right person to say the right thing to change someone's perspective type thing. And I enjoyed that. It just felt really weird in this episode. Like, the speech that Kingo gave and knowing who Agatha is and how power hungry she is, it's like, it's hard for me to believe that his speech would have worked on her. Like, I think if it had been anybody else, it might have worked, but I'm like, on Agatha Harkness, this worked? Nah. I wasn't feeling that. It was weird, but I did love the like angle of, you know, maybe it just takes somebody to say something that we haven't tried yet to make it all work out. Yeah. But in first place, I have what if the emergence destroyed the Earth? Now, much like Hulk, what if Hulk fought the Mech Avengers? I really enjoyed this team up of Riri Williams and Nan and Wong and Okoye and Valkyrie, because I kind of forgot Valkyrie was there, if I'm being honest, but she was, so I included her. I don't care for Quentin Beck at all, like literally at all. But he was used sparingly in this episode, so I was like, okay, I'll get on board with it. I think it was interesting that like he used his illusion tricks to let Riri think that the Alliance was still alive. I liked Riri in this. I'm hoping that like she's going to have this type of spunk and personality and everything within Ironheart, because I think then I will actually enjoy Ironheart. I wasn't sure how I was going to like this episode. I was like, okay. But like once we got going with it, I was like, I'm enjoying this. And so, in a very unexpected turn of events for me, what if the emergence destroyed the Earth is in first place? Yeah. So, ultimately, overall for this show, there were a lot of great moments within lackluster episodes. And I think that's how I'm going to summarize this show. Great moments within lackluster episodes. There were a few standout episodes. I enjoyed the series as a whole. But the final season just didn't quite do it for me. Like, I think it was maybe my least favorite season. For the most part, the episodes for season 3 were pretty forgettable. The character dynamics by far the standouts, but they weren't strong enough to save the episodes as a whole, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I wanted more from a final season. I think I felt some type of way watching the trailer when I was like watching it, and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this trailer. Like, I'm not super excited from the trailer, and I think I found my reason, because the season as a whole wasn't fantastic. But yeah, let me know. What did you guys think of the final season of What If? How does it rank up amongst the first two? And let me know what your episode ranking is. If you don't want to go through all 8 episodes, just tell me which one was your least favorite episode, which one was your favorite episode, and why. Because I'm really curious to hear what everyone's thoughts are on this final season of What If.